Welcome to my shed. And so this is now going to be the location for a little subsection of my Ramblings of a Running Coach YouTube series. Still going to be rambling on and going off on tangents and stuff as I always do. But this little sort of sub-series is creatively titled Shed Talk. So I'm just going to use these to talk about kit and gear and all that sort of stuff, because I know lots of people like to geek out on that, and I do too. So yeah, without further ado, I'll just give you a quick little tour of the shed. So we've got sort of jackets and stuff like that, helmets and all that jazz, lots of hats and gloves, including a Top Gun inspired poster, which is a must. More climbing stuff, sleeping kit, lots of drawers that are all well organised into like food and like survival and all that sort of jazz, because I'm anal like that. Paddle boards and outdoor chairs, dry bags, swimming stuff, more paddle boards and rucksacks, obligatory Rocky motivational poster, race medals, more packs, vests, rucksacks, all that sort of stuff. Obviously at the moment we've got my big sled, expedition sleeping bag and all that sort of jazz, and then we've got the drying corner with the wetsuits and waterproof jackets, paramo kit, all that sort of stuff, because we've got a little bit of a drain at the bottom. So yeah, that's the shed. So today's episode, what I thought I'd do is kind of just go through a lot of the kit that I'm going to be utilising for my next race, which is the 6633 Arctic Ultra. So 380-mile race into the Arctic Circle in Canada. And it's self-sufficient, so you've got to carry everything on a pulk or sled, obviously dragging that behind you. Well, I say dragging, it's on wheels because of the nature of the terrain. It's a lot of ice roads and stuff, so the sled itself is on wheels. And obviously temperatures can reach minus 40 degrees, so obviously it's quite a different kit list from what I'm used to for a lot of the races that I've done so far, and obviously a far cry from the hot climates of some of the big other sort of events that I've done, like MDS and all that jazz. So like I said, what I thought I'd do is just go through a little bit of rundown of some of the kit that I've got, sort of clothing wise and equipment wise, and yeah, just to geek out on it. And obviously if anyone's got any questions, they can fire them over. Okay, so we'll start off with the sled. So it's a little bit longer than I initially thought they were before I bought it. Like I said, it is on wheels, very robust sort of off-road wheels, and essentially have this pole system here, so that attaches to the sled. It's got a little bit of sort of flexibility, and then you have the other part of the poles which then clip in and has the waist harness and the shoulder harnesses. And this basically is what I will be living out of and carrying everything in for the duration of the race, bar a couple of drop bags that I'll have at different checkpoints to top up food and stuff. But you can see just a big bag, nice big robust zips on it. At the moment it's just got some sandbags in and stuff for extra weight for training. But yeah, so that's the sled. It's from I'm not sure if I probably butcher the pronunciation, but Aiguille Alpine Equipment, which actually is in Staveley, so that's not too far away from where I actually live, which is great. So I got the sled and that off a mate, but lots of the other attachments and the sled bag and all that sort of stuff I bought from those guys. So that's the sled or pulk. Alright, so I'll go through basically clothing first, so a lot of the kit that I'm going to be utilising. So I'll just make a little bit of a mess, sort stuff out, and we'll kind of start from base layers and stuff like that really, and build up. So in terms of base layers, I'll be using some Rab Power Stretch Pro pants, basically like a legging. So they've got a bit of fleece on the inside to provide that warmth. So that'll be what I'll be using on the lower half. And then to supplement that, if it does get extremely cold, and especially the wind, so on like the windiest sections of the race can potentially get quite horrendous. So I'll utilise these Montane Prism pants. So they are completely windproof, but they also have some Primaloft insulation in it. So that's a synthetic insulation. So again, water and rain and stuff isn't necessarily a concern on this particular race, but obviously the Primaloft, because it's a synthetic insulation, is not as big of a concern if it does get a little bit damp. So that'll be sort of an outer layer, as it were, for the lower half, to complement the Power Stretch Pro leggings, and that should be pretty much all I need for the legs. Obviously it's not as difficult to keep that area warm. So in terms of upper body base layers, I've got a couple of options here. So they're all merino wool, just because I find, for me personally, and I've been testing them quite a bit, they're really good at wicking away moisture. So I found that it really minimises having a sweaty back, which then soaks through to the other elements. And obviously we're trying to minimise sweating on this race, because otherwise that'll freeze and obviously cause cold and potentially derail your race effort. So I've got some thin options, so some lightweight merino long sleeves with the zips, so again you can have a little bit of ventilation if required. So these are the Alpkit Kepler merino tops. I've had these for a long time, and like I said, they're a good sort of thin layer option. So they're sort of, you know, the 120 GSM option in terms of the sort of heaviness of it, or the quality of the thermal capability. And then because you need some variability of layering systems, and obviously different thicknesses and stuff gives you good amount of options then to regulate temperature and heat, especially like I said, minimizing that sweating. So then I've got a couple of thicker, so like the 200 to 300 weight isobar merino tops. So again, with the zips and the collar, just so again I can regulate that heat by just having a little bit of ventilation if required. So that's base layers, Rab Power Stretch Pro leggings, and Alpkit and Isobar merino tops. Then going on to obviously sort of mid layers, outer layers, the Prism pants, like I said, for the lower body. In terms of upper body then, I've got the Rab Cirrus Gilet, which I have on now. So again, a synthetic Primaloft insulation. Again, just I find is a little bit more breathable for me, and obviously not as big of a concern if it gets damp. As I said, that's not necessarily a big issue out there, but I still think for me I prefer the synthetic element. Then on top of that, I've got a few options for kind of mid layers. I've not got them all here with me, but just most of them are Alpkit, to be fair. I really like their stuff. So we've got an example here, so the Morphosis soft shell jacket. So again, completely windproof, peaked hood, all that good stuff, and gridded fleece on inside on certain sections apart from the arms really. So that's one option, kind of a lighter weight option, plus the wind stopping capability. I've also got the Alpkit Katabatic, so a synthetic insulation jacket, but quite a lightweight sort of thin one with some Primaloft insulation in that as well. I also have, again, I haven't got it here with me, but the Alpkit Dura mountain jacket. So that's a traditional pile fleece on the inside with zips on the sides all the way up to the armpits, and obviously a big chest zip and stuff like that. So again, lots of areas for me to ventilate it, and a slightly different type of insulation to obviously have that option. And again, a pretty decent sort of Pertex like outer, but not Pertex because that tends to be for Rab stuff. So again, obviously adds that wind resistant element to it. So they're kind of like my mid layers, as well as a sort of a basic sort of power stretch type fleece from Berghaus, just again as an option. So it means that I can combine different ones to obviously allow me to stay warm but not be sweating too much. That's the key with all of this. So that's mid layers. Then for sort of top end outer layers, so again, depending on how extreme the conditions get, and obviously for when I become static, especially if I'm doing any admin, setting up camp or whatever, straight away I'm then going to be utilising these two options here. So I've got the Alpkit Phantom down jacket. So it's a little bit shorter, but again, it's got a decent quality down. I think it's a 750 fill down in it, reasonable amount of it as well. And then kind of stepping up a little bit more from there, I've then got a Rab Extreme Summit down jacket as well. So both are proper down. So I think this is again a 750, or might even be an 850. I'm pretty sure it's a 750 fill. So for those who don't know, fill power is basically just the the sort of the warmth capability of the down. The higher the number, the better the quality, therefore the more thermal capability it has. And obviously if you've got a lot of it, again, you're getting quite a toasty jacket. So again, some decent reflective panels and on stuff on this, and a little bit of extra sort of windproofness to the outside of it. But essentially both of these are just big fluffy jackets to, like I said, keep warm. Obviously the Phantom will be ideal if I'm on the move and I still need that little bit extra on top of my base layers and my mid layers, and then the Rab jacket is going to be the one for when I'm kind of static or potentially in the tent and in sleeping bag if I need it, that extra layer of warmth. Socks, super straightforward. So I've got 3 different options. I've got the Bridgedale liner sock, so obviously again just to help with minimizing friction, but that's obviously a must from the beginning. And then in most cases it will then add a combination of the liner with one of these two, and then in extreme cases the liner plus both of these. So then I've just got literally the Bridgedale midweight hikers merino performance ones, and then the Bridgedale heavyweight hikers that go all the way up to the knee, and again with that element of merino in them as well. So I'll be using a combination of those 3 in terms of socks for the feet, and then top of that I'll have my Hoka Torrent running shoes. Okay, so again, because of the nature of terrain and the route, trail shoes are absolutely ideal for this particular event. And then just get some Cthulhu nano spikes, which is like your little snow chains for the bottom of your shoes, chop them on top of the shoes, and then ideal then for the event. In terms of gloves, so I'll be getting a load of just your basic sort of cottony, spandexy type liner gloves, just cheaper chips ones. I'll probably get them from Rathbones and Keswick. Then on top of that, Rab Power Stretch Pro gloves. So again, they're kind of the main effort in terms of if it's relatively mild. Then on top of that, I've got the option of my Alp Kit Gabbro gloves. So these have got pile fleece in, as well as a little bit of Primaloft insulation on the back of the hands, just to add that extra warmth. So again, that's an option with, especially with elasticated cuffs, they're easy to get on and off. And then for extreme conditions, I've then got my Montane mitts, which have also a Primaloft inner, and then obviously pile fleece and Primaloft insulation on the outer as well. So again, I've got the option to use one or both on top of the other glove options that I've just gone through. So that's kind of feet and hands or extremities covered. Moving up to kind of the head and stuff, so I've got obviously plenty of buffs, and I am a Marvel geek and someone bought me an Avengers buff, so I will be sporting that on the race at some point. So these are obviously one little neck gaiters for that, but also because of the nature of the cold air, you can then use them as a way to cover up the mouth and the nose to potentially minimize any sort of cold or air, frost building up here. But because of that condensation, they will obviously build up gunk and freeze. So I've got to take plenty of those to be able to switch in and out of them. So I'm going to take a good 5 or 6 of those. On top of that, some balaclava options as well, so some kind of open-faced balaclavas, and then something like the air hole balaclava, so that kind of gives me that sort of ninja style option as well. So again, obviously for purposes of video, we obviously want to see that. So literally there, tiny little hole for me to breathe out of to minimize condensation buildup, and then obviously with all of that, I've got full face coverage. And then if I want to, on top of that, if the wind's really bad or anything like that, for full face coverage, we've got the goggles on top. So again, nice long neck to it, so it tucks in all that good stuff. So, and obviously goggles, like I said, and sunglasses are the other options. Then on the head, so I've got Alp Kit mountain beanies. I've got, again, I haven't got it here right now, but the Haglofts wind stopper. So again, put 100% windproof with a pile fleece liner on the inside. So I've got a Haglofts hat as well to go on top of that. And that's pretty much most of the clothing. There's a few bits that I need to get to sort of complement all of that, but we're not far off there. So going through some equipment then. Obviously I've gone through the sled already. I've got the Rab Latok Summit tent, so a single skin 2-pole mounting tent, so easy to put up, but obviously very robust in severe conditions. And because it's single skin, you're not faffing with then putting fly sheets or inner outer first, this, that and the other. It's literally just bang the 4 poles up through their sleeves on the top of the tent, job done. So we're looking at trying to keep the time to build it to a couple of minutes at best. So getting the whole getting the whole sleeping system out and the tent put up within a couple of minutes to minimise standing around in the cold for too long. So that's the tent. Sleeping bag. So got this absolute beast. So it's the Rab Expedition 1400 sleeping bag. So 1400 grams of down, that tends to be what the number is the amount of down in it, and it's an 850 fill power goose down, so pretty much the top end in terms of fill power and quality, and obviously 1400 grams of it. So the sleeping bag's supposed to be down to minus 40 degrees, which is potentially the temperature we can experience on the race. So then on top of that, to complement the tent, the sleeping bag, I've got one of the Thermarest sort of accordion style foam mats to go on the floor first, and then I'm still waiting out on getting it, but I'll then have a Thermarest Pro Light inflatable roll mat or sleeping mat to then go on top of the accordion, and then obviously my sleeping bag on top of that, just again add that little bit extra thermal capability at the bottom. And that's pretty much the sleeping system. Then from there we've got cooking system, so food and all that stuff I'll have to buy in Canada, because most of it we can't take from this country, you can't really take it into, and if you do get checked you're likely to just get it taken off you. So I'm not going to risk it. I'll buy most of that stuff out there, but a lot of the stuff I can buy easily at Whitehorse I've been practicing with. But I'll have a jet boil and obviously gas system. So what that does mean is that I need to make sure I'm on the ball with when I want to use that, especially if I'm not at a checkpoint, make sure I take the gas and stick it on me somewhere so that I can obviously stop it from freezing and being able to utilize it. I will have a multi-fuel stove as well, just in case. That uses a liquid fuel, which is much better in extreme cold, but a little bit more faff to use. So I'll have that as a backup option, but I will primarily be focused on using the jet boil. So that's the cooking system. Other than that, see, food, flasks, plenty of flasks with warm water in to make freeze-dried meals, all that good stuff, and lots of snack bags. And I'll be using Nalgene bottles with the big open tops to then be able to just chuck like trail mixes and stuff whilst being on the move and being able to eat without having to stop. And I think that is pretty much everything. Yeah. Obviously there's other little ancillaries and all that sort of stuff. The other big purchase really I'm just waiting to sort out is a head torch. So I'll be getting one of those. I've not decided what I'm getting yet, so wait out on that. But yeah, we're pretty much there with the kit that I need for this race. As you can see, is a lot, and a lot of these things I've shown you, especially the base layers, we're going to be having like 3 or 4 of each. So that I've got plenty of options if I do get sweaty, and have a couple of spares in my drop bags, because I get 2 drop bags across the course. And then things like puncture repair kit and all that stuff for the sled wheels, bits and pieces like that, tools to be able to make sure I can keep that tickety boo. Yeah, I think we're there. Any questions at all on any of the kit or where I got it from or anything like that, or if you just want to know more about fill powers and this, that and the other, or I'm happy to sort of point you towards some resources and stuff like that. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed just geeking out and looking at all the kit that I'm going to have to use for this race.